All right, so you want to dive into this whole NVIDIA open source AI thing. Buckle up because things just got really interesting.
Yeah, no kidding. Kind of out of left field, right?
Mm.
Nvidia graphics cards, gaming, suddenly they're shaking up the AI world, a space owned by, like, Google, OpenAI, the big dogs.
Exactly. You think cutting edge AI, you don't usually picture what the thing powering your video games. But this VentureBeat article on NVIDIA's NVLM 1.0, it's got everyone buzzing.
It's a bold move for sure. Like, imagine the whole open source software thing, but applied to, like, the bleeding edge of AI. That's what they're doing, making it accessible.
Okay, so for those of us who didn't go to AI school, break it down. What is NVLM 1.0?
Yeah.
What's got everyone so hyped up?
So it's not just one thing, right? It's a whole family, a family of large multimodal language models, these. Uh, but the big thing here, multimodal. Unlike some big names that are all about text, NVLM can do text and images.
So it's like how we experience the world, right? Not just words on a page or a picture, but the whole shebang.
Exactly, like a more human way of processing all that info. And that's where things get really wild. Take NVLMD 72B, for instance, 72 billion parameters.
Oh, whoa, hold on. Even just saying 72 billion makes my head spin. What does that even mean in AI terms?
Think of it like this. Each parameter is like a connection in the AI's brain. So 72 billion, that's a lot of brain power. Imagine going from, like, reading about a concept in a textbook to having a chat with, like, the world's leading expert. That's the difference in scale we're talking about.
So AI kindergarten to AI PhD in one giant leap. But what can it do with all that brain power? How does it stack up against the big names, your GPT-4s, your Claudes?
And here's the kicker, early tests. NVLM isn't just keeping up with these AI giants, it's actually beating them in some areas. And remember, we're talking about an open source model doing this.
Hold up, it's outperforming them. Okay, now you've got to give me the details. What kind of stuff is this AI superstar acing?
One of the things that really blew my mind, right, was how well it understands memes.
Wait, it gets memes. Like the humor, the layers, the whole deal. I struggle with those sometimes.
It's not just seeing a picture, it's understanding the joke, the context, the nuances, everything. That's some seriously advanced processing right there.
Okay, color me impressed. What else you got?
Another thing, image analysis. This thing is ridiculously good at picking apart images, way beyond what we've seen.
Okay, so like, how's that different from what's already out there?
Imagine looking at a picture, a busy street scene. NVLM, it can identify all the objects, sure, but it goes way beyond that. We're talking understanding the relationships between those objects, the actions happening, even figuring out the overall story of the image.
So it's like it can read between the pixels, like it's got some kind of AI detective skills?
Exactly, that whole understanding context thing, not just identifying stuff, that's a huge leap.
So we've got this AI that can tell a good joke, analyze images like Sherlock Holmes, and figure out what makes a meme funny. What does that even mean in the grand scheme of things?
$1 million question, right?
Right.
And the honest answer, we're just scratching the surface.
This feels huge, not just for the tech world, but like everything.
It really does. And the open source part, that's the game changer. Think about it. Researchers, developers, everyone and their dog with a good idea all building on this.
So like democratizing cutting-edge AI, anyone can play.
Exactly. And that's why this whole Nvidia thing has everyone freaking out. For years, this level of AI, it's been locked up in these tech giant vaults. They've been the gatekeepers. Smaller companies, startups, researchers, they couldn't really compete.
So NVIDIA basically just flipped the script on the entire industry.
Nailed it. And the reactions, pure gold. VentureBeat quoted one AI researcher saying, wow, NVIDIA just published a 72 billion parameter model that's on par with Llama 3.1, and it also has vision. That pretty much sums up the general feeling, I'd say.
Like NVIDIA just threw open the doors to their top secret AI lab and said, come on in, let's build the future.
It's a radical move, no doubt, and it definitely raises a whole bunch of questions.
Like what happens next when you unleash this kind of power? So we're talking about a world where this super powerful AI isn't some exclusive club anymore. What does that even look like? What changes?
Well, for starters, get ready for a potential innovation explosion. Imagine, right? The entire global tech community, all those brains, working off the same open source blueprint. It's like, who knows what kind of crazy applications we'll see that we haven't even dreamt up yet.
Right, like instead of just a few chefs hoarding the secret recipe, suddenly everyone's got it, tweaking it, coming up with wild new dishes. The possibilities are kind of endless.
Exactly. We could be talking huge leaps in healthcare, how we learn, tackling climate change, you name it, but you know, like with any powerful tool, there's always that flip side.
Right. Got to think about the what ifs, the potential downsides. So what are we worried about when this AI genie's out of the bottle?
Well, misuse is a big one. More hands-on powerful tools. You got to up the security game, think harder about the ethics, the whole 9 yards.
It's not just can we anymore, it's should we.
Right, exactly. Tough questions need asking. How do we build this stuff responsibly? What about bias in the algorithms? All those unintended consequences lurking out there.
Right, like we just handed everyone a supercar, it's going to be a wild ride. Got to have some rules of the road, some safety measures in place, or things could get messy.
Spot on analogy. And that's why these conversations right here, right now, they're crucial. This tech's still newish. We've got to figure out how to use it right, make sure it's a win for everyone.
Sounds like we're at this turning point.
Hmm.
NVLM 1.0, it's got the potential to rewrite the rules, but it's a huge responsibility, making sure we use that power for good.
No doubt about it. And it ain't just on the techies to figure this out, it's on all of us. Staying informed, having these chats, shaping the future together.
It's a lot to wrap your head around. But before we go full-on sci-fi, let's reel it back in to NVLM's skills. You said it can analyze images like crazy, right? But what does that actually look like in the real world? What's an example?
Okay, picture this. You're using NVLM for medical imaging. We're talking x-rays, CT scans, the works. Not only can it spot things a human eye might miss, but it can cross-reference that with a ridiculous amount of medical data, making diagnoses way more accurate.
So it's like having an army of expert doctors working 24/7, catching every little detail, making connections we wouldn't even think of.
You got it. And that's just one area. Think architecture, urban planning, analyzing building designs for safety or simulating how traffic flows in a city. We could do some amazing things.
Or even predicting disasters,
Yeah.
right? If it's that good at images, could it analyze satellite data, weather patterns, give us a heads up on hurricanes, earthquakes?
Exactly. And we haven't even touched on the creative potential. Imagine this thing generating art, composing music, all based on what it sees.
Okay, now you're just showing off. This is way beyond funny memes. Now we're talking full-on creative revolution.
And don't forget, open source means the sky's the limit for how fast this stuff evolves. No more waiting for the big guys to hand down scraps of progress.
It's like the dam just broke, a flood of creativity and innovation all at once. Exciting, but maybe a little scary too, right?
No doubt. One thing's for sure, though, the AI world just got a whole lot more interesting.
And it sounds like this is only the beginning. So we've covered a lot of ground here, from NVLMs, bag of tricks, to this whole open source earthquake.
Yeah.
What's the headline for our listeners? What's the big takeaway here?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? But I think it comes down to this: Nvidia just redrew the map for AI, like completely. This isn't just a new model, it's a whole new playbook for how this stuff gets developed.
So more open, more collaborative, everyone's invited to the party.
Exactly. We've gone from these walled gardens to like wide open spaces. Exciting for sure, but we're going to need some new rules for this new world.
What kind of rules are we talking about? How do we make sure this open source free-for-all ends up being a good thing, not a disaster movie waiting to happen?
That's the billion-dollar question, and honestly, there's no easy answer. We need everyone at the table. The coders, the governments, the teachers, even just everyday folks using this tech. It's a group effort figuring this out.
No pressure, right?
Sounds
like a pretty big responsibility.
It is what it is. But here's the thing. It's also a chance to do things right, to set the course for AI for like decades to come.
So what can our listeners actually do? What's one thing they can start doing today to be a part of this, to make sure AI goes in a good direction?
3 words. Stay curious. Ask questions. Don't just accept the headlines. The more everyone understands about what AI is, what it can and can't do, the better we'll all be at navigating this crazy new world.
Knowledge is power, right? The more we know, the smarter we can be about all this.
Yeah.
We can demand transparency, make sure these companies are building this stuff responsibly.
Exactly. And this isn't sci-fi. This isn't years away. This is already happening. AI is all around us, from what you see online to how doctors diagnose illnesses.
It's everywhere. And now with stuff like NVLM, it's not just some hidden thing anymore. It's out in the open.
And that means we got to be having these conversations now more than ever. No more burying our heads in the sand.
So to everyone listening, keep that curiosity burning and get involved. The future of AI, it's not some done deal. It's being written right now, and we're all part of it.
Couldn't have said it better myself. And who knows what incredible things we might create together.
And on that note, that wraps up our deep dive into the wild world of open source AI. Until next time, keep those minds open and those questions coming.